Welcome everyone to the V3 implementation call. Today is July 13th. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us this morning. As a reminder, these sessions are recorded and we put them on our website and also on our YouTube channel in case there's a section that you want to review or if there's a topic that you want to share with other members of your team. Our fantastic Chris Hoffman does a great job in time stamping the videos on our YouTube channel, so you're able to go directly to the topic of interest. We appreciate his hard work in getting all of those videos up and available for everyone. We do consider these meetings a conversation, so please feel free to go off mute or to use the chat feature if you have a question, comment, suggestion, input on any of the topics that we go over today. And then at the end, we do leave time for open forum. So if there's something that you want to bring to this group, that's an ideal time to ask a question, get input, really tap into the combined knowledge and experience of this large group. We have many people on this call that have probably experienced whatever your question pertains to or anything that you're frustrated about. We've got lots of great voices that we appreciate on this call. All right, I think we did all the housekeeping. Let's move into the agenda. All right, hopefully everybody can see the agenda on their screen now. I'm going to turn a few minutes over to Jen Correa for our maintenance update.
Good morning. So maintenance for July is scheduled for July 19th and 20th. There may be some slowdown or interruption, and we'll know more as it gets closer. So if you have any issues on those 2 days, just let us know.
All right, thanks, Jen. Next on the agenda, we'd like to turn some time over to Monet. She's going to just give a quick recap on our experience at the NASEMSO annual meeting this month. Monet?
Okay, thank you. Can I share my screen?
Yes, let me stop share. There you go.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I would just like to say, first of all, thank you so much for all your efforts. Oh my goodness, it's been a busy year so far. A few members of the NHTSA had the opportunity to attend the NASEMSO 2020 annual meeting in Charlotte, South Carolina, and we had a fabulous time meeting with state managers and vendors. We had some really great discussions and a long list of deliverables or action items that we're going to follow up on. Here is a short summary of the items that we intend to follow up on. First, we're going to develop a checklist and verbiage to assist the state officials with the applications for the 402 and 405 federal monies that are available. We are going to create mapping of the exchanges, or sorry, the changes from the existing standard elements to the new American College of Surgeons trauma triage elements and implement the new custom elements. We're also going to complete the V3 data dictionary template as a resource for the transition to 3.5. And we're going to prepare a list of the schematron rules for elements that are most common for warnings and errors. And our intention is to have these things available and ready for discussion during our annual meeting in August. And then I would also like to just say thank you for all the managers that came out. We had an awesome time celebrating with you the success of submitting data to the National Repository from 50 states, the District of Columbia, and 3 territories. And it was such a wonderful time to see so many of your faces. So thank you so much for all that you do. I'm very grateful for having the opportunity to work with you and make this a huge success and accomplishment. And if there are no questions, I will turn the time over back to you, Julianne. Are there any questions? All right, thank you so much.
All right, I'm gonna take the screen back. Okay, there we go. All right, hopefully everybody can see this Safe Streets and Roads for All SS4A grant program. I'm going to put that link in the chat. This is a DOT program for funding that we wanted to make sure states and vendors were all aware of. It does have a deadline that is fast approaching. The SS4A grant, the applications are due September 15th. And this is a grant that is available to organizations, cities, towns, tribal, and then regional areas like the multi-jurisdictional groups. So it could provide a funding mechanism to help support your safe system for all, your post-crash care, and that national roadway safety. Any of those initiatives are really great projects that could fall into the opportunity for this funding. It does have a quick turnaround. September 15th is just right around the corner. And please reach out if there's a report or if there's data or language that we can help you with if you look into applying for these grants, or if you encourage your agencies or regional agencies or groups to apply for this grant too. So it's just another funding mechanism that may be very valuable to some of you. Eric, feel free to jump in if there's anything you want to add. I know there's been a lot of talk about the Safe Streets for All. There's even webinars that you can reference and then use their how to apply page as well.
Thanks, Julianne. We're sending out any information we have on opportunities. They have calls, listening sessions on any of the grant programs that are coming out. Any information I have will get through, you'll get through these Google groups for these meetings. So if you have, as Julianne said, if you have questions, we're trying to coordinate some work with the vendors on some kind of specific topics that we think would have attraction to the administration, that would be pretty straightforward for funding, and try to make those requests consistent. We're working with a few of the vendors now at the state's request to try to get that. Once we have a template or something that's successful, we'll make sure to send that out to everybody and say, hey, look, this is what's worked for this particular agency or this particular state. And, you know, ultimately, I can't tell the states this is what they should apply for funding for. But once we have these success stories, we want to certainly share them, and we'll post them somewhere as long as the state or the agency allows it, so that you can see what's been done and what's been funded in other areas. And then once we have that first one or two, we have a good understanding of what the requests and requirements are. I think this will go pretty smoothly. It is somewhat of a challenge in that, and this shouldn't surprise anybody if you work with the federal government, it's not consistent from state to state, and requests are not always handled in the same way. So that's a bit of a challenge for us. The only thing I ask is, if you hit a stumbling block and someone says something along the lines of, well, NASEMSO or state EMS isn't eligible for this, or this shouldn't be done this way, or whatever, send those to me and let me take that battle on for you. They'll go toe to toe with that individual, because there's enough backing in our leadership through GAM's boss, Mr. Nandasur Vasan, who will be more than happy to address those for us. So thank you all. If you have any problems or concerns with the grant process or grant programs, please let me know.
Please also share this with your agencies or your regional areas. Some of your states have regional EMS agencies or groupings. Even if you don't intend or have the bandwidth to apply for this as a state, this is a great opportunity for those smaller organizational setups that isn't always available. To them. So this is a great one to share with everyone. All right, next on our list, I'm going to give it back over to Jen again. Let me stop sharing so you can have the screen. Jen's going to talk for a few minutes about our change log recommendation. There's been a lot of discussion about the change requests that we've been collecting over the last few years and how those changes are recorded and documented, what our process will be for review and vetting, implementation. So Jen's put a lot of work into putting some good parameters around some processes that I think will be really helpful as we look at changes to the standard and updating the standard more frequently. So I'll stop talking and let Jen have a few minutes to talk about it.
Oh, I don't mind at all, Julianne. You can, I would be more than happy to let you say the whole thing.
Oh, no,
And I will apologize ahead of time if I take a break and cough at any point while I talk this morning. So one of the things that has been brought up by vendors and EMS agencies within the states has been the change logs that go along with the state data sets and the state EMS or the state demographic schematrons. And so one thing I want to point out that with version 3.50, your state vendor will be submitting your state data set via web services. So you may want to check with them how their changelog is going to be structured when those are submitted. It'll be in the additional info section. And just like when we update your state data sets now, it will be in the description section, whatever is included in that within the file that's submitted. For version 3.40, state data sets are still going to be submitted manually, the way you do it now. And what we're hoping to see, and what would be helpful for everyone, is when you submit those state data set changes, if you could list what was added, removed, or updated. We've been told that when we just put in updated facilities for state EMS data set, that it's not as helpful to the local EMS agencies for what changes got made. And so this would be helpful for them, for the local EMS clinicians. For the schematron changes for version 3.40 and or 3.50, the submitted changes should come in with the updated schematrons. Hopefully what can get included is which version this is applying to. Within your state, you may still have people that are operating on 3.40, even if you have updated to 3.50. And so just letting them know, making sure that they're aware which version the schematron is for, the effective date of the changes when they're going to go into effect. If you have rule IDs and rule names associated with the rules, that's helpful. It's helpful for folks to search through which rules things are applying to. And if you can list what the new rule is, what it's replacing, or if it's just a new rule altogether. And Alabama, thank you very much again for your permission to share, submitted on their last schematron the following change information here that I have highlighted on the screen. So it let everybody know this is exactly what got changed in the state data set. This is how it was changed. In the schematron, this is the version we're on. This is when it's going to take effect, which was immediately for this particular one. And this is exactly what we did within each of the rules. And so by doing that, it really does help those who have to utilize the schematrons and try and follow the data sets and try and keep up to date on what's going on and give the states the best info. So were there any questions, suggestions, or anything like that regarding the change log and what we're hoping to get with the changes as they come in?
Let's see, some additional fields if they could. So if it's probably each entry should say whether it's a new rule or an update.
Right, and that would be here in the suggestion, what it replaces or if it's new.
Okay. Okay. And then if it's either escalating or relaxing a constraint, so if it's going from error to warning or warning to error.
That would definitely be good to have. What the change is, sure.
Yeah.
Originally is asking where this is posted. It has not been posted yet, but I will send out a notice and give everybody the link to where it will sit at.
And Jen, we do have posted a best practices bulletin. I can throw that in the chat if that's helpful too. But it doesn't include this detail like you said.
So if anyone has any suggestions or would like to ask questions or anything, you all have my email. Please feel free to reach out and we'll get this on that link that Julianne is putting out as soon as we can. And then the next topic is mine too. So I'm just going to jump into that if there are no other questions. Okay, perfect. So I will put into the chat. Thanks, Julianne. I will put into the chat after I'm done sharing my screen, the link to this page. So one of the things that's been asked about is where are the requests that we have submitted and how can we see what's going on with these different requests? And that is located here. And hold on just 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. One of my screens that I thought I was going to. My Zoom.
I'll throw that link in the chat, Jen, so that people can go to that and just check it out.
It did tell me that it updated Zoom this morning and I thought it was all done. So maybe I don't think it was all the way done. So anyway, this is the website. Thanks, Julianne, for putting the link in there. And you'll see that it's pretty simple. These are all of these submitted requests that have come in and each of the tickets. Anyone is able to access this, just clicking on the link and going to it. Anything that moves into currently under review, this just means that it's moving through the approval process. It does not necessarily mean that it's been approved or will show up in the next version or will show up in the next major revision. It just means that it's under review and going through that process. And then anything that's actually in the in progress column, that has been approved for implementation and is being worked on. And then obviously resolved indicates that it's ready to go into the appropriate release that it's been assigned to. And it will have a label on it once it's assigned where it's going to go, so that you can look at it. Within each of the tickets, you can open it up. You will see here where it says Epic link. This gives you an idea of where it's going to go. Is it an e-injury? Is it e-vitals? Gives you the description and the information and what's going on with the page. And I will go back to, and see, I just set it up on a link so that all I have to do is go into my favorites and it comes right up. Is there any questions on this? I think it's labeled pretty well and it's pretty self-explanatory, but if anyone has any questions, please let me know. And as you can see, I know Eric has given a talk a few times about how many requests we have. You can see the total issues listed down here for everything that has been requested since the last 3.5 release. And if there are no questions, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and give it back to Julianne.
Thank you, Jen. Thanks for taking those two topics. We appreciate it. Next on the agenda, we're going to have Lauri Lunde talk a little bit about the annual meeting that is quickly going to be upon us.
Thanks, Julianne. I do have just a couple of quick announcements regarding the annual meeting. I just posted a couple links in the chat. One is to register if you have not yet. We are looking at a really great turnout so far, but I did find out this morning we only have 12 hotel rooms left at the discounted rate. So if you have not registered and booked your hotel room yet and flights yet, I encourage you to do that as soon as possible, because we would love to have everyone there in person. There is an option for virtual attendance if you're not able to come in person, but we would love to have as many people in person as possible. And the second link I posted is that we had some people asking about transportation options from Salt Lake City is the closest large airport you likely will fly into. And it is about a 45-minute drive up to Park City and to the hotel where the conference will be. And I want to say a shout out to Benji, who did some research for all of us and put together a document with some transportation options and prices of those different options as well. So we will be emailing that out to anyone who's registered, but I wanted to give you a sneak peek of that today before it gets emailed out this week, if it's something that would be helpful to you. A couple things to note on the agenda. Underneath the registration link, there also is an agenda available. And one thing to mention, if you are a state data manager, then Sunday night from 3 to 7 is our boot camp specifically for state data managers. And so as you're arranging flights and transportation, I'd encourage you to try to get there by 3 p.m. on Sunday. Following that at 7:30 Sunday night is an event for everyone. So anyone is welcome to come. We have a marshmallow roast planned that evening at 7:30. And then also one of the earlier versions of our agenda had us ending, I believe, at 4 or 5 o'clock. And we have moved the ending time up on Tuesday the 23rd when we end. We plan to end now at 2 p.m. To accommodate people who need to fly out that evening. So those are some items to note from the agenda. And then I also wanted to mention temperatures in Park City this time of the year. I looked on the Weather Channel app this morning, and they are predicting temperatures to be in the 70s during the day, and then pretty chilly at night, 45 degrees or so, lows in the evening. So you may want to bring a jacket or sweater for the bonfire in the evening. And if you, like us, live somewhere where it's 90 degrees, 100 degrees this week, then hopefully escaping to the mountains and 70-degree temperatures is appealing and something to look forward to. So we're excited to have you guys. Feel free to reach out if you have any specific questions on registration or things along those lines. Any questions for everyone right now?
I just wanted to point out really quick that boot camp does not have a virtual option. So the Sunday boot camp for state data managers will just be in person. But the virtual option does apply to the full annual meeting on Monday and Tuesday.
Lauri, also for the people that you're booking their rooms through the DOT travel system, their rooms are already blocked off, right? That
Correct.
They should not book. Okay.
Yeah.
As long as they know that, that's spectacular.
Any other questions for Lauri about annual meeting?
All right, sounds good. We look forward to seeing you guys soon.
Thanks, Lauri. It's going to be a really great event. We're very excited about it. Lots of good topics. And we've got 4 external speakers, national partners that we're bringing in as well to help with the discussions that we have. If you've never attended an annual meeting in person, they are lively, lots of talking, lots of discussion, lots of input. So it's really, they really are good work meetings. You will not be PowerPointed to death. And you will be asked for your opinions, thoughts and comments. So it's a good event. Next on the agenda, I'll just take a minute. I just wanted to remind everybody that we have decommissioned the EMS COVID resource reporting tool. There was several people who did receive email notifications anytime that they had an agency report to the EMS COVID resource reporting tool. And right now that's been decommissioned. If we need to bring the reporting tool, the form, or the dashboard back up, it is ready to go. There just hasn't been a need to keep that running right now. So we just have that turned off. So any questions on that COVID resource reporting tool, please feel free to reach out. And also any input. If it was extremely valuable for you and you used it on a regular basis and have a need to continue there, please let us know. Oh, yes, the bacon, that for annual meeting, that Monet's in the process right now of finalizing the menu plans. And she has bacon top of her list for as many meals as we can make bacon happen. So, and you just have to come to annual meeting to understand the context of this bacon craziness, because it's totally a legitimate issue. You just have to come and be there in person and have this experience. So just putting that out there. It's another bonus of coming out to Utah. All right. Next on the agenda, I'm going to turn some time over to Josh Legler and Ben Fisher for some discussion on the ACS trauma triage changes, the criteria and guidelines that have been rolled out, and the impact that has on EMS documentation. So Josh and Ben, it is your show.
Thanks, Julianne. Good morning, everyone. I think Ben's on vacation this week, so I got to just do this solo. So I'm bringing back around some discussion from maybe a couple of calls ago about changes to the trauma triage guidelines, and have a little bit of stuff to share with you, and then want to get your feedback and input about maybe what resources the NEMSIS TAC should develop around this topic. So let me get my screen share going here. Just as a reminder, what I'm showing you here is the 2011 trauma triage guidelines that were published by the CDC, 11 years ago. And the news, of course, which was discussed a couple calls ago, was that ACS, the American College of Surgeons, has updated the trauma triage guidelines just recently. So they've reorganized things a little bit and gone with the red and yellow colors. And then as you look into the actual text of these triage guidelines, some stuff is the same as the 2011 guidelines, and some stuff has changed. Some stuff removed, some stuff added. So anyway, for the NEMSIS perspective, of course, the question has been, well, we have NEMSIS 3.5 that was released in 2019 that has largely implemented the 2011 triage guidelines. And now, it's been out for 3 years, but we're just starting to see implementations of NEMSIS 3.5 in the field. And now we have these new trauma triage guidelines issued in 2022. And the question has become, well, if agencies and states move to these new triage guidelines, what's it going to take to report these triage guideline values, given the fact that NEMSIS currently implements the 2011 values. Here's some work we've done so far, and then we want to see where you'd like us to go next. This is a spreadsheet that lists the 2011 triage guidelines in the first section here, and then the 2022 guidelines in the next section. And then lastly, the values that are currently found in e-injury.03 and e-injury.04 in NEMSIS. And you'll see that there's some that just line up nicely, like amputation proximal to wrist or ankle was in step 2 of the 2011 guidelines. It's in the second red box, the injury patterns red box of the 2022 guidelines. And it's a value in e-injury.03 in NEMSIS. So for this particular one, it wouldn't really matter if you're using the 2011 or the 2022 guidelines. When an EMT goes to fill out their report, they've got that choice available in e-injury.03, and they can choose that and indicate that that was a factor in their triage decision. But of course, they don't all line up so nicely. We have GCS less than or equal to 13. That's no longer in the 2022 guidelines. Okay, that's not a problem. We just wouldn't use it. But now we have, for example, here in the 2022 guidelines, we have unable to follow commands. So the motor portion of the GCS is less than 6. So instead of looking at total GCS, they're just looking at motor being less than 6. And there's no value currently in e-injury 03 or e-injury 04 that could be used to indicate that new triage choice, the triage guideline choice. So this is what we've developed so far. You can see, as I scroll down, it just tries to correlate the ones that do match up, and the ones that don't match up just kind of stand on their own without a correlation across these different versions. And it still leaves the question then of, if someone moves to the 2022 triage criteria, what are they going to do to record those criteria in the NEMSIS standard? They're going to have some choices available, but not all of them. So at that point, something would need to be done in terms of custom value development to support those new values that don't currently exist in NEMSIS. So looking for feedback and input and discussion. Couple things on my mind that you could maybe respond to. One is we could definitely share this spreadsheet out through NEMSIS. So I wanted to see if that's a helpful resource. And if so, what kind of format would you like it in? Is it just good as this Excel spreadsheet, or would you like something a little more formatted, a little more visual that illustrates the changes? So that's one. Another is, what do we do about the fact that it could be years before NEMSIS is updated again and able to support these new values in the 2022 ACS criteria? So what do we do in the meantime? What can we do as a kind of as a whole community? A third one on my mind is, how quickly are agencies and states going to migrate to the 2022 triage criteria guidelines? Like, how much time do we have to get a plan figured out? So any of those questions, just want to open it up to all of you and get your thoughts.
I'd say you want to highlight which ones are direct mapping, kind of fungible mapping, and which ones are kind of incompatible.
Okay, great.
It looks like you have to kind of read through to understand that, and one kind of a more dashboardy functionality.
Good. Yeah, we could do something about that. Some of these, the text is a little different, right? Like 2 or more proximal long bone fractures versus suspected fracture of 2 or more proximal long bones. Well, that's basically the same thing. So they line up, but So like you say, that one was fungible. Some match exactly, some don't match at all. Okay.
Hi, this is Sharon in Nebraska, and I think discussion at the meeting, NASEMSO meeting, we had talked about that it's going to kind of depend on when the trauma systems are able to accept some of this data and look at when they're going to implement this, because we can't really implement it if they aren't using it yet. So that would kind of depend on the timeline.
And when you say trauma systems, are you talking the bigger picture of system or the data systems?
Well, like the hospital trauma systems, like when the hospitals will be able to accept any of the new information in their software, I guess, or how
Okay.
that, well, I don't know, because that was all going to be with the UUID, so maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. It's kind of above what I can figure out.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, there's trauma registry software, right? That's one
Yeah,
piece.
exactly.
The other piece is that trauma teams in the hospital are trained and know how to react to these new decision points that EMS is using. Okay.
Josh, this is Judy in Texas. It may depend on when these guidelines are incorporated into the National Trauma Data Set data dictionaries.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, are they in the trauma in NTDS?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look at it. I work more with the EMS side, so I'm not that familiar with the intricate details of the NTDB data dictionary. So,
yeah, this is Amber. I actually just recently dug into this since the NASEMSO meeting, and the trauma triage criteria used to be in the NTDB dictionary. However, when they moved towards the UUID linkage, they removed all of the EMS data elements from their data dictionary, assuming that they would get that from the linked EMS record. So when they did that, they removed these data elements.
That's what I was trying to remember, was if it was in that set that they removed. So they're relying on this coming from EMS. And as we can see now, there's going to be a gap here in what EMS can provide through their data. Thanks.
Josh, this is Eric. The real rate limiting factor in all this is going to be when the state decides to, or if the state decides to implement these new guidelines. Not everyone adopted them before. That would take protocol changes, that would take training of the EMS personnel changes. So this is not something that's going to happen really fast. Although I guess if a state really got behind it, they could make it happen fast. And in states that allow protocols to be developed by local agencies or jurisdictions or councils, it may take even longer. So this isn't something that's fast paced. It's just something to, and it's going to be very much a chicken and the egg. Which piece has to be in line first before these changes need to be made?
Thanks. And that brings to mind, I think when I've been looking at custom elements from states in the custom element library, there are a few states that have some custom values in these two elements, which indicates what you're talking about, that some states may have adopted the 2011 guidelines verbatim, and other states may have had their own kind of twists or variations on those guidelines. And the same thing could happen with these new guidelines.
That's very much the case. You're spot on. That was the next piece, and I didn't mention that. Each state may only adopt pieces and parts of these. So that's, again, not helpful, I know, for software vendors that are trying to build out consistency. And we've talked about that in terms of customization and custom elements as we've had our calls with each of the vendors. So stay tuned for more on this, but we're just trying to get ahead of it, make people aware of it, what could happen, and we'll build off as the states decide to adopt them.
This is Karen. I'm thinking of I think it was the last call when there was also some discussion, and I'll even say some frustration that I heard from some of the vendors when talking about the custom elements that are needed for compliance testing. Would it be possible to maybe use this as an option to, if all the vendors are required to create custom elements to use for compliance testing, whether it's adding values to the current e-injury steps 1, 2, and steps 3, 4 to meet that, or whether it's add new elements that would actually, be true standalone 2022 trauma triage elements. Just a thought.
Yeah, I think there's potential there.
Are these also more of local agency and or state concerns and issues, or is this going to filter all the way up to NMSIS as far as NMSIS wanting to collect this data as well?
Yeah, the National EMS database does not collect any custom element data. So we could create national custom elements in order to create consistency across the country in the collection of these new values. But those custom values would not go to the National EMS database. So it's not until these values actually get rolled in as standard values within these elements, only then would they go to the national database.
So it's more of a local state issue than it is a national issue at this point, other than trying to maybe get some consistency for later down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to try to catch up on a couple of comments in the chat here. Caitlin said we were hoping that the CERT tests could make use of existing custom elements already required, so we don't have to write a new code to immediately throw it away. So yeah, we've covered that. And then Michael Paddock said, just to piggyback on what Amber was mentioning, even though the AACS may not want those other EMS data elements sent to them besides UUID, local and state trauma system may want to store the trauma triage criteria from the EMS report in their local trauma registry systems. Yeah, certainly the case.
I think NMSIS would be in a good position to provide assistance for just the way that you do with NMSIS versions, to say that these states are on old trauma criteria, these ones are on new ones. That'd be extremely helpful for keeping track of who needs what, and what their rollout plans are for updating protocols and whatnot. And I think that could drive the elements so that we don't have 3 different implementations, or 10 different implementations in 10 different states for as far as custom elements. We've had that many times.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be a good one for discussion. And also, I wonder if the ACS plays a role there at all, if that might be something that they would want to or be willing to track for people. Okay. Any other comments, thoughts on this topic? Okay, great. So I think as a short-term thing, we'll find a way to do a little more formatting to what I'm showing you in the spreadsheet here. Something to highlight a little more, what stayed the same, what changed. Get that out to all of you so you'll have it as a resource. At least you'll know where the differences are. And then I think as a longer term thing, we're looking at getting a better handle on how quickly people might move to the new criteria. It sounds like it's probably a multi-year process. And as we get a handle on that timing, we can probably have some more discussion about whether or not to develop national custom element values for these. And then also, of course, the timing of whenever the next release of NEMSIS would be, where they could get incorporated as standard values. So thanks everyone for comments and input on that. Okay, I have the next agenda item as well. It's to just give you a kind of a heads up on some interoperability work. And let me get this around so it's bigger on the screen here. Oh, that is funny. PowerPoint's not going into presenter mode for me. Okay. Well, I can scroll, I just can't do anything else. Okay, you get it a little bit smaller today. So I think you've heard this tossed around, the IHE Path to Production program, I guess you could say, and that the NEMSIS TAC has contracted with IHE to participate in their Path to Production program to focus on interoperability between EMS and the rest of healthcare, hospitals, IHE, HIEs, et cetera. And so as part of that contract, there has been kind of a mission statement put together for it. So IHE USA and NEMSIS have a shared vision to improve health data interoperability and health outcomes for our stakeholders. IHE USA and NEMSIS will collaborate to advance EMS interoperability via the Path to Production and IHE Connect-a-thons. There are several goals that have been established. Sorry that this will look a little small in this view. Overall, it's to leverage technology, infrastructure, technology, and standards to support current information exchange models while developing the pathway to FHIR-enabled exchange and support development of an e-outcomes white paper and standards profile. So that'll be accomplished by utilizing the IHE infrastructure for doing demonstrations, education, and to support testing of products that are trying to become interoperable. It'll involve extending support for existing IHE profiles and utilizing HL7 formats, facilitating testing beyond the NEMSIS TAC, so bringing in not just NEMSIS compliant vendors, but vendors from the other side of that exchange so that they can work together and test together. And then developing a white paper around interoperability and getting hospital outcomes back to EMS. We're just getting things together right now to kind of launch this effort and to get some meetings on the calendar and other events on the calendar. So we're still kind of doing the homework and putting things together, but we wanted to give you as much of a heads up as we could here because we have some stuff coming along very quickly after we launch this. So our thought right now is to use the NEMSIS annual meeting. There's a portion that'll be dedicated to interoperability. We've got about a 45-minute slot there on Monday of the NEMSIS annual meeting, and to make that the official launch of this effort. And IHE hosts what are called digital series events. Every couple months, they have a 2-day event. It's online. People can register for it and get access to presentations that have been developed around certain topics. And so as a result of NEMSIS contracting with IHE, it means that any NEMSIS stakeholder, whether it's a vendor or a state EMS office or whoever that's kind of in the NEMSIS world, will be able to sign up for these IHE digital series events and get access to these presentations on various topics. So some of the topics are going to be about EMS interoperability. There will also be other topics, like they have a track right now around security of systems. They also have some stuff focusing on maternal and child health. So all of that would be available to any of you who sign up for these events, and you can on demand pick which presentations you would like to watch. Those will approximately be every couple of months. The first event is probably going to be like the week after the annual meeting. So we're going to kick off and then have that digital series virtual event. And that's why we want to give you a heads up right now so you can be thinking about this opportunity. Those digital series events, since they're going to have content related to EMS interoperability, it means all of the other people besides all of you who are already participating in these events, from hospital vendors or health information exchanges or other government offices, those people are going to have access to presentations that we and IHE will develop about EMS interoperability. So it's an opportunity for everyone on both sides of the fence to be learning about each other's work and to start working together and making connections with each other. We will also have some working meetings. These will essentially take the place of what was the NEMSIS outcomes work group that we had been working on. So we're going to fold that into this effort and have those working meetings probably every couple of months, at least at the last part of 2022. And then a couple big events. IHE hosts a Connect-a-thon twice a year. A Connect-a-thon is a face-to-face event where people come together and they kind of can sit down at the table together with their laptops and write code and send data to each other and really just kind of work on like that real-time collaborative work on interoperability. So an EMS vendor might sit down with a hospital vendor, you know, dev to dev, and just pound out some code and make some efforts to be interoperable. The Connect-a-thon for this fall is in September. It's the kind of the middle of September. And so that's, again, why we want to at least give you a heads up here, because that is very quickly right around the corner. And IHE will have some ability to subsidize participation for NEMSIS stakeholders in that September Connect-a-thon. We don't know how ready any of you might be for the September Connect-a-thon, but if you are, it's a great opportunity. And if not, then there will be another one in February that you can prepare for. And finally, every year, HIMSS has a conference and showcase. It'll be in April of 2023. And the goal is to have some work done, some Connect-a-thon experience under our belts, and for someone from among the NEMSIS community to be able to be at the HIMSS conference and actually demonstrate some interoperability work that they did with another partner from the hospital side or elsewhere. So that's a heads up of what we've got kind of penciled in right now. As we get this really detailed out, then we'll get some dates out to everybody and give you opportunities to start signing up for these things. Participation can include those who were in the NEMSIS outcomes work group. We really would invite those people to continue to contribute in this new venue. EMS vendors, it can be your tech and dev people, but it can also be leadership people or marketing people. States, EMS offices, other offices in the state, HIEs, agencies, hospitals. The cost for virtual events, such as the digital series, those are covered by the NEMSIS IHE agreement and free to anyone who participates. So whether 5 of you sign up or whether 80 of you sign up and participate in those, there's no difference in the cost to NEMSIS. It's all free to all of you. So we would really encourage you to take advantage of that opportunity. And then, as I mentioned, IHE can subsidize the costs for people signing up to attend those in-person events, the Connect-a-thons and the HIMSS conference. Okay, so this is still pretty drafty. We're still working through the details, but we feel like we're on a train that's moving very fast to some dates that are very closely right around the corner. So I wanted to share as much as we could this morning about what we're working on. Any questions that I might be able to answer? Okay, well, you can look forward to more information coming, and we're excited to see what we can really do to move interoperability forward for EMS. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Josh. Thanks for taking those last two topics. And we'll continue to communicate those dates and those opportunities for our stakeholders on that IHE path to production. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. The next item on the agenda is just to share a new resource with you from HHS. It's guidance on how the HIPAA rule covers audio-only telehealth. We just wanted to make sure everybody had the opportunity to see this guidance and to share it with their agencies or their organizations that are doing telehealth and have questions about how to stay HIPAA compliant in that arena of telehealth. So I've put that resource on the chat for you. And then I'm going to go back to our agenda. Hopefully everybody can see the agenda. Next on the list, any items from the Office of EMS, anything that you would like to share in addition to what we've covered today, Eric, we're happy to have you.
Yeah, thanks, Julianne. Just one item. This morning I had the opportunity to review the first of well, it wasn't review. There's actually a document put out by HHS, I believe in 2017, regarding the overall healthcare system in the United States in response to any event. You can imagine now there's an interest in revising that document. I got to look at the different categories that they've established for what they perceive to be the new document in the new format and flow. And there's no surprise that the data and infrastructure for data and communications and sharing data as part of the emergency response framework that's in existence now and how that fits into what HHS sees as the total healthcare system is all in play. As we move over the next couple months into really working on that document, we'll probably be sending that out to different groups for review and comment. When we do, I'll make sure you have background knowledge on what's in there that I think is of interest to us in this particular group, and ask for your feedback. There's going to be a lot of those types of things coming out, like the new trauma guidelines. I'm not quite sure how to spin it. We'll talk more about it in August. For this group and for the work that you do, there's going to be so much change over the next 6 months of things coming out, big ticket documents, big ticket guidance things that are nowhere near just embedded in DOT's Office of EMS, but in the overall healthcare system strategy. So when we send those out, we're truly looking for your input. We like detailed feedback. We don't like the, oh, this sucks. If it sucks, tell me why it does, and then we can help fix it. But if you just make the general comments, there's really not a lot we can do. As you get those, some of those responses are due in a timely manner. You'll get them as fast as I get them, and you'll get as much time to review them as possible. I'm not saying that everybody has to review everything that we're going to be sending out, but the more input that you have, the better the product's going to be for EMS. Remember, a lot of this is written for healthcare in general, and not a lot of advocates for EMS and some of those meetings. These are White House level meetings. So this is an opportunity for us. When you get them, I just ask for your feedback. If you don't have any comments, that's great. Let us know. That way I know that you don't have comments and it just didn't hit your inbox and you didn't pay attention to it. I don't expect everybody to drop everything they're doing and provide feedback. But again, in trying to make this as transparent as possible for what comes our way, hey, look, we want your feedback. We want your input. So stay tuned. There's a lot of things coming. A lot of it is data driven. A lot of it is based on the sharing of data and who should share data and how they should share data. And it's not going to stop. Some of it has money tied to it, which is great for your agencies, and others is just sort of general guidelines at this point and maybe planning for the future. So stay tuned. A lot of interesting things coming our way. Thank you all.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate that. Any questions for Eric? All right. Next on the agenda is open forum. If there are any questions, comments, concerns, issues that anyone on this call would like to bring before this group, this is a great time to do that. If there's something that you think of after the meeting or when you're in between meetings that you would like added to these agendas, please let us know. Sometimes we have really long agendas and sometimes they're shorter. So we're happy to address the issues that are of greatest concern for you. I did fail to mention at the beginning of the call to please please excuse Clay today. He had other commitments, and so that's why he's not with us this morning. But our next call will be July 27th. We do not have an August training because of the annual meeting. Our last public training was a really fabulous refresher on UUID that Josh did yesterday. And so Chris will get that posted up on our website and also on our YouTube channel. So if anybody missed that, it just was a really great refresher, reminder of what UUID covers and what it doesn't, how it's implemented. There were lots of questions. So that'll be on, that resource will be available on the website and our YouTube channel, probably today or tomorrow. Chris has pretty fast turnaround with those. So our next V3 call is July 27th. We'll have one in August, but the second one in August, we're going to go ahead and cancel. We'll have a lot of people traveling home from the annual meeting. And so we didn't want to overstress everybody. Plus, we will have just spent 2 days together hashing out all the crazy, awesome, good NEMSIS topics. So we're going to give you a break on that August 24th meeting, but all of the vendors will still receive credit for attendance in the whole scheme of the year of V3 implementation calls. If you haven't registered yet for boot camp, or not for boot camp, but for annual meeting, whether that's in person or in virtual attendance, please do so or reach out. We're happy to help you with that. And if you have any other further questions, any comments, concerns, let me check chat real quick. Oh, Chris is already on the ball. He's put that link in the chat for anyone who's interested in that training session. Thanks, Chris. And I think with that, I think we're good. Very productive call today. Thank you so much for your comments and questions. We really appreciate it. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to be with us. Have a great rest of the day. Be safe out there. And we're really excited to see many of you in August in person. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye-bye.